There it stands, fortified by its walls, buttressed by the very river itself, confident enough that it can handle itself. Louisville, the crowned city of Project Zomboid. And as we finally come to revealing all the stash maps that will lead you to this massive pain in the map, it should come as no shock to find that it alone has the most stash maps of any other city. A whopping 16 total maps. Woo! So yeah, you might want to settle in. This is going to take us a few minutes to explore them all. Let's go. First up, we have what I like to call signpost maps. They tell a cool story and lead the player to good places to know about. Louisville, however, has a new twist on the old signpost shtick. It includes lies. Yes, that's right. These maps are a mixed bag when it comes to their treasures, as you'll soon see. So let's run through them. Map number 3 is a signpost map that's, and there's no nice way to say this, but it's lying to you about the truck. It doesn't spawn in any loot, it just points out that there's a school here and lies to your very face. Now, I have found a work truck that happened to spawn in here, and since there's a large vehicle spawn zone in the parking lot, there is a good chance that there will in fact be cars or even a whole vehicle story. See my video on that for more details, but you are not promised a working truck. And certainly not one with keys. It is important to note that the annotated map system doesn't even have the ability to spawn in cars anyway. No matter how handy that would be, bear that in mind, as this will be a running theme here today. Now, map 4 also lies to the player, but only just a little, in that the strip mall is not a worthless search, but it is somewhat light on loot, as many of the stores are set up to be run down and going out of business, therefore not fully stocked. And unless you're using a mod to spawn into Louisville, the fresh food here will be, well, probably not food anymore by the time you get there. And the other marks on the map are very helpful, pointing out some great food and gun stores, as well as a gas station, and it gives new players the hint that they'll want a sledgehammer to get into those juicy guns. Map number 11 is a nice little map that points out an unfriendly local hospital so that you can get plenty of meds and bandages, a storage unit place so you can get plenty of generators, and another store that it promises to be unlooted and full of Zeds, but depending on your settings might not be either. But none of these buildings will have any extra surprises spawned in because the map is just a signpost map. Map number 12 is a fantastic map, one of my favorites. It leads to the northeast of Louis to a fairgrounds where you can find tents and generators aplenty, and is one of the few zones that will spawn in the band and bandstand zone stories properly. See my video for that one as well. So you'll find tons of beer bottles and zombies wearing leather running around. But though it doesn't spawn in any extra loot, it does lead you to an interesting location where unfortunately both the pizza lady and the hot burger dude may one day be meetable NPCs. Map number 13 is just not a great map. Don't even bother marking its notes down on your own map. The houses it points to are fine, but not great. Not even really good houses to build bases in. And the house marked with a house spawns no extra loot, so what's even the point? And the circle promising a working car? Yeah, we've heard this before. It's just banking on the fact that there is a long, thin car spawning zone on the street that maybe spawn you in a car. But it also might not. Map number 15 is my favorite of the signpost maps, or as I'm calling them in my head today, the maps that lie to you about cars. Because this one both leads you to a location that you might not ever have taken the time to visit, and it really feels like it's the setup for a great challenge run. Whoever finds this, I was Natalie Sigmundson, lecturer in arts history at LSU. I'll already be dead, but I have a final request. This is only the end of the world if we allow it to be. We must secure the treasures in the art gallery, or we will truly be lost. Friends managed to gather a cache of weapons in a car near the gallery. Use them to clear it.
Let no one say that humanity is lost forever. Such a great little piece of storytelling that I went to the area fully expecting to find a car loaded with all manner of weapons to enact my planned art heist.
And lo, a bounty of vehicles hath appeared to enact the prophesied salvation of the artwork.
But only because the map is set up that way to very likely spawn in cars here. So it's not really lying to you, unless your settings are weird and cars are very unlikely on your server, since the devs both set up the map and the stashes together, but the map isn't doing the heavy lifting here, it's just pointing you to a likely direction. Next up, we have the Storehouse caches. These are maps that not only lead you to new areas that you might have missed, but also spawn in extra loot. Map number 1 leads to a cozy little neighborhood with a few little markings, one indicating the final resting places of the gun nut, which does not, and I looked into the code to verify and spawned it multiple times to double check, it does not spawn this dead body with a duffel bag that I found when I checked it and freaked out. That's just Project Zomboid's random spawn system being amazing. But you're not promised that a dead body will actually be here. You are promised a duffel bag and more guns and ammo in this house, as the entire house is set up as a gun cache 1, so check any duffel bags and counters. Map 2. Oh, Map 2. I hate this map. I want it to be really good. You see, it leads to a tomb, and it tells a tale of a final farewell and a final bequest to a loved one. And in the stash definition, it even sets up the tomb as a survivor cache. So there should be a ton of tools and materials and weapons and food. But, and I had to check the code for this, it doesn't also spawn a crate or a duffel. And you may not be aware, but American tombs or sepulchres do not traditionally contain kitchens or bathrooms or counters of any sort. So there's no place for the extra loot to spawn. So what's even the point? I wandered around all over this cemetery looking for something, anything. I checked in the chapel, which does have counters. I checked in other tombs. I found some randomly spawned in cars, but here, where the devs that wrote the code that does this should know and include a crate, or even better, a coffin with loot inside, there's nothing. I'm not even going to dignify this map by voicing its intended story. I'm so offended. Oh! Map number 9, however, is a great map in that it tells a little story and spawns a little loot and leads the player to a location that they might not otherwise ever find. The big park in Louis is kind of a warren of trails and trees dotted sparsely by buildings and is honestly a great area. You should totally check it out. But down to the southwest is a stable. You know, the horse-filled kind that we can all hope will one day spawn horses when they're added to the game. Just imagine riding horses around in Project Zomboid. Oh, and then crashing them. Or imagine them getting attacked and, well, anyway, find this map and you'll know that there's a crate of food for you somewhere in there, at least. Oh, and there's also a security room with guns and ammo too, if you're unfamiliar with the location. Oh, there's a story being told by map number 10 for sure. But I'll not tell it, as this is the internet and we don't want to sully it with such vulgarities. But the map does lead to a house a few blocks off the main western road leading into Louisville proper. You'll be able to find yourself an extra crate filled with food there, if you look quietly enough. Map number 8 is a doozy of a find. It's not the biggest cache I've ever uncovered, see my West Point maps for that one, but if you get this one, you've got yourself a great chance to find high-tier weapons, like axes, nightsticks, and sledgehammers, and almost all of the rifles. But this one in particular, you have a great chance of finding exactly what you're looking for. You see, it leads to an apartment building north of the park in Louis, and spawns in a single extra crate of loot. But because of how the stash system works, it spawns in extra loot in all the counters and medicine cabinets in the entire building. And since each of the 6 apartments is set up with a kitchen and 2 bathrooms, that is a lot of Canned spaghetti bolognese, canned carrots, canned chili, canned corned beef, canned mushroom soup, canned peas, canned potatoes, canned sardines, canned tomato, cereal, chips, dog food, mac and cheese, machetes, shotguns, shotgun shells, TV dinners, tinned beans, tinned soup, 223 ammo, 308 ammo, 38 ammo, 44 ammo, 45 ammo, 9mm ammo, X's, baseball bats, crowbars, double-barrel shotguns, empty jars, golf clubs, hand axes, hunting knives, MSR 788 rifles, katanas, nightsticks, pasta, pistols, pistol cases, instant popcorn, ramen, revolvers, rices, sledgehammers, crafted spears, tinned beans, tinned soup, tinned tuna, MSR 700 rifles, weapon bags, wood axes, alcohol wipes, antibiotics, antidepressants, bandages, adhesive bandages, beta blockers, disinfectant, first aid kits, painkillers, sleeping tablets, suture needles, suture needle holders, tweezers, and vitamins. Our last handful of maps here are what I refer to as the safe house maps. They have almost everything. They set you up to find not just loot, but also an almost fully barricaded house. And all the Louisville houses are very well barricaded indeed. I don't know, just bring them both. We won't be able to come back. Just let me finish this note to Debbie. Hopefully she's still alive to find it. Map 5 tells a small tale with some hasty notes to Debbie of dangers to avoid and sanctuary to be sought. And though the other two are possibly helpful advice, if you visit the Carlin's residence, you will find that it has been barricaded up to level 80 and stocked with weapons, tools, and food. Just make sure you bring a hammer or crowbar, as level 80 barricades might put barricades on all the doors and windows. Map 6 has almost no story, but is a good little base for the area. There's not much other than houses directly around, but it is on a main road and relatively close to the mall. And it gets automatically boarded up to level 80 and filled with weapons, tools, and food. So it's a good stop if you find it.
Thank you, whoever you are, for laying my body to rest. Here's where my house is. You're welcome to whatever you find. I had everything there. Everything I could ever need. Or so I thought.
Map 7 is very thematically only to be found on the body of a zombie, and it tells a bit of the story of its former occupant, and leads you to their house, which you'll find is in much the same location as Map 6, but further out and fewer Zeds. You'll find the house barricaded and stocked with weapons and food. Map 14 sets you up with a really nice spot, way up to the north just below the gas station headquarters section of the city, and conveniently located near the downtown area. You'll find this house that is already barricaded up to level 80 and supplied with weapons, food, and tools. I just hope they got back in time. And I also wish that the radio on some station would have chatter of them actually calling out. I don't really like Map 16. Sure, it leads to a fine house in the northeast of Louis that gets barricaded and supplied with weapons and food, and it's a nice big street, so it's easy to get to and use as a base. But I don't like that it's begging the recipient to please come with us, but then just casually throws in, oh yeah, they got your son here. Like, really? That's how you're gonna tell them about their son's death, by texting them? Rude. I'm already working on the video detailing all the random house stories that can spawn into the game, which will finish out the videos on all the stories that can spawn into the game, and I've begun to work on a mod that adds in a ton of new stash maps and random story spawns into the game. So subscribe to be notified when those come out, and if you want early access to that mod and or want to suggest your own map be placed in the game, you can join the channel at tier 2 or higher. And until next time, I'll play with you again later.